This Corecon training video segment is one of a series of training videos covering the features in the HR module. In this training video, we're going to explore ways to add or edit employee profiles and to set up the default payroll rates. To find this module from the home view on the main menu, we're going to go down to the HR module. While employees can be entered as contacts under your company profile in Contact Management module, we recommend doing so under the HR module. The latter is recommended since the employee form in HR includes additional fields and tables such as education, licenses, and payroll rates. There's also a couple important reminders. Due to security concerns, only users assigned administrator or financial administrator security roles can review and edit information in the HR module. Employees can be imported from an accounting system such as QuickBooks, SAP, or Xero using a Corecon utility link. The labor time card feature requires employees and payroll rates to be set up. The employee profile also includes two types of rates. In this training video, we're going to explore the standard payroll rates. In separate training videos, we're going to also discuss the project-specific payroll rates. In separate training videos, we already discussed the prerequisites for entering employees, creating payroll items and settings, and if you plan to use payroll burdens in detail, there's also settings for payroll burden templates. We're going to explore how to add active employees manually. From your HR module, go to Active Employees, click Actions, and click Add Manually. Jumping forward, I have already started to add information manually to this employee profile. The labels to required fields are in a red font. At a minimum, a first name and last name can be entered. Employees can be marked active or inactive, and employee profiles are also used in part for the user profile. Although not required, an employee email is very important in Corecon and enables most of the correspondence features. As mentioned, the list of titles can be set up in global settings. There's a place for a business address and a home address. Down to the next section, employee information. Employee ID is not required, but if it is required by your payroll provider, a field has been made available. Government ID numbers also are not required and for the most part aren't used in Corecon except for customized reports. For that reason, there's no need to track government IDs on employees for most of our subscribers. There's an option to select whether the employee is a salesperson, and there are several filters built into Corecon that reference this field. And even though the employee is set up in Corecon, they may or may not be a time and expense user. Usually, if they're hourly employees and their time is charged to projects and contracts, you'll want this selected. In a separate training video, we also discussed the workflow approval process set up for this module. Those are established here: hire date, gender, emergency contact, and comments. Most of these fields are manual entry and fill in the blank. When you're done, click Save and Close. That first step was entering basic profile information. If you need to edit any of the information from the employee profile, select the Edit button, and it will take you back to the same screen, back to the employee information. Once that basic information is entered, you also have an opportunity to add education by simply clicking Add. Again, fill in the blank for the most part. If you're tracking registrations, you have that option here as well, simply by clicking the Add option. Notice you can also delete these, or if you need to edit them or update them, just select the registration and that field will be available. Next, we'll talk about standard payroll rates. Standard payroll rates are one of three primary rates that can be used in Corecon. In separate training videos, we're going to discuss ways of setting up project-specific payroll rates, union rates, prevailing rates, and so on. So we're going to skip that subject in this training video. But we are going to focus on standard payroll rates. Notice that Corecon will track standard payroll rates based on an effective date and always looks for the most current rate. In this case, employee has a standard rate with no effective date, so the second and third on this list will be skipped. You can also mark these inactive or archived. Let's edit the most current standard payroll rate by clicking on this payroll item, and we're going to put an effective date at the beginning of the current year. Notice that there's a base rate, burden, and a bill rate. Click Save and Close. Now we want to add a newer rate, and when Corecon reaches that effective date, we'll automatically switch rates on labor time cards as of that date. So let's go to Add. We're going to select the payroll item, which these are set up in global settings under Feature Settings, Time and Expenses. We're going to give it an effective date, a base rate, and burden. Burden can be added in two ways. The more basic way is just adding a burden amount manually. This is an effective way of using burden if you're using a standard or blended rate across all employees. While we're here, the total labor cost rate is added, and while we're here, we can also add a billable rate. The other option for burden is to set up burden items in global settings under Features, Time and Expenses, and then select this View option, and then click Import, and select the employer's costs added to the gross rate to come to total labor rate, and click Add. Then we're going to select which ones we want to use and click Import. And Corecon adds that burden rate based on that selection. And click Save and Close. We also want to add an overtime rate based on the same information. So we're going to click Add, change the payroll item to overtime, also give it an effective date. Since the hourly base rate was 40, let's assume that 1.5 is the overtime rate, so we'll put 60. And we can also go in and select those burden items or enter that same burden as a flat rate. Once we've added them to this specific employee, we can also select them so they're added and calculated automatically by Corecon. And a new hourly burden rate is added. We'll also want to update the billable hourly rate and click Save and Close. Rates can also be imported to add or update existing rates. To do this, go to the knowledge base, to Getting Started, and to Corecon Import Options from Microsoft Excel. If you scroll down to Time and Miscellaneous Expenses and select Employee Payroll Item Rates, there are a list of fields available to import and a sample. Let's open this sample. Although you could use the spreadsheet to import rates in bulk, for our example today, we're just going to do one employee. I'm going to go to this employee and open the edit. I'm going to copy the display name. This is a key field. If Corecon encounters this display name when importing, it will update existing information. I'm going to paste that here. I'm also going to get rid of the extra two that are in the example. There are several fields that must match and other fields that are required. If we go back to the help article, you can see the employee, pay code, and the two cost rates and the bill rate are required. Although we could also import project-specific rates, for this example, we're going to skip that part. The payroll code, or payroll item, can be seen down the left-hand side. Again, we're not going to be using the project number. The company name is not required. If no company name is found, Corecon assumes that it is your company that you're adding this to. We're going to set the effective date for a future date, knowing the employee will be getting a raise at that point. We'll put in that new rate and the overtime rate. Burden rates will be imported as a flat amount, but can be edited once these rates are added if you're using the more specific detail. And we'll also add the billable hourly rate. We'll click File Save, making a note of where we're saving this to, and click Closed. Back to the HR module, down to Active Employees, over to Actions, and Import Employee Payroll Rates. Click Choose File, select the template we just created, and click Open. Both rates were imported. Let's go back to the employee. Now we see the new upcoming rates. Corecon realizes what that effective date is. When time cards are entered on or after this date, Corecon knows to switch the rates at that point. If I wanted to use a more detailed burden calculation, I can just simply edit this item and select those burdens that apply to this particular rate and employee. And back to the home view. If you'd like to know more about the information provided in this training video, we encourage you to go to the knowledge base. Under Corecon Browser Solution, go to Human Resources, and then select Employee Overview. The information provided in this training video, as well as more detailed information that you'll find helpful, can be found in this knowledge base article.